When talking about combat aircraft, the thing that involuntarily comes to mind is the swift, predatory silhouette of a fighter, or a formidable heavy bomber. And somehow, the true workhorse of combat aviation, i.e., the attack aircraft. That's simple compared to its more famous colleagues, but truly irreplaceable. Vanishes from the memory. And one of these irreplaceable combat hard workers is the A-10 Thunderbolt attack aircraft, non-pleasantly named by the military as the Warthog, for its hunchbacked appearance similar to the silhouette of a warthog, an artiodactyl animal that lives in Africa. Now it's the only aircraft in the U.S. Air Force designed and used exclusively for close air support. And despite its clumsiness amidst the futuristic bombers, F-15, F-16, F-22, B-2, the A-10 Thunderbolt attack aircraft has been faithfully serving the country for 45 years and is not about to be retired. What's its longevity secret? Let's figure it out. In the early 1960s, our generals were horrified by the numbers of tanks their main enemy, i.e. the Russians, had in service. There were 8 tank armies concentrated only in the western direction aimed at Europe, 4 of which were based directly in East Germany. The total amount of tanks exceeded 50,000. The number of armored personnel carriers and infantry fighting vehicles was even bigger. The photos from enemy exercises with tank columns stretching to the horizon were frightening. Looking for an asymmetrical answer was an urgent issue, since creating the same number of Abrams tanks was too expensive, and where the people can be taken for them. Vietnam War outcome also added its fuel to the fire. The U.S. Air Force suffered tangible losses from Soviet air defense units supplied to Vietnam, small-caliber anti-aircraft artillery, and large-caliber machine guns. These conditions caused more and more difficulties for them to support ground troops. And what could happen if American aircraft were confronted not by the weak Vietnamese air defense system, but by Soviet anti-aircraft guns? A survivable armored attack aircraft is urgently needed. Some kind of tank with wings. It was the A-10 Thunderbolt II. The main feature of the Warthog is its main armament. The aircraft is literally built around a huge 7-barrel GAU-8 air cannon with a rotating barrel unit. It can strike the enemy in a second with 70 30mm armor-piercing or high-explosive shells, each weighing almost half a kilogram. Even a short burst is enough to cover a column of tanks with a series of hits on thin roof armor. GAU-8A fire effectiveness was tested on American M48 tanks and Soviet T-62 tanks received from Israel. It turned out that it was capable of effectively hitting the T-62 when fired at ranges of up to 1,200 meters, causing fire and detonation of ammunition. In addition to this killing cannon, the attack aircraft carries up to 16,000 pounds or 7,200 kilograms of mixed ammunition on 8 underwing and 3 under fuselage pylon stations. These include AGM-65 Maverick missiles, laser GPS-guided bombs, unguided and laser-guided 2.75-inch missiles, 500-pound Mk-82 bombs, and 2,000-pound Mk-84 bombs, infrared countermeasures, jammers, flares. Add to this the superior maneuverability of the aircraft by 2 widely flared engines mounted high on either side of the fuselage tail and the low-slung triple-spar wing. The fuselage is a semi-monocoque made of aluminum alloys, contains 4 continuous cross-section power longerons, and a lot of identical frames. The structure is designed for a limit of overload of 7.33. The destructive overload factor equals 11. Damage of 2 diametrically opposed longerons and 2 adjacent sheeting panels does not cause destruction of the fuselage. The main measures to ensure the survivability of the aircraft are armoring of a cockpit and some units responsible for maintaining the combat efficiency of the machine, the reservation of structural elements and equipment, separation of engines, control wiring channels. The aircraft is featured with the armored cabin. It's made of rolled titanium armor with thickness of 13 to 38 millimeters. The armor cabin is assembled from individual parts with bolts. The inner surfaces are equipped with a shatterproof underlay made of multi-layer nylon fabric. The aircraft has a top speed of 420 miles per hour or 676 kilometers an hour and can rise to an altitude of 45,000 feet or 13,636 meters. The maximum takeoff weight is 51,000 pounds, or 22,950 kilograms. Flight range is 800 miles, or nearly 1,300 kilometers. The aircraft was mass manufactured in the period from 1975 to 1984. A total of 715 aircraft were assembled at a cost of $18.8 million per machine. The cost of one aircraft was ridiculous by today's standards, $4.1 million as to the prices of 1977, or $16.25 million as to the prices of 2016. One flight hour of the Thunderbolt cost the U.S. budget $17,564. For comparison, one F-35 cost an average of $85 million. 1 hour of its flight cost $44,000, while its creation and operation before decommissioning cost $650 million. That's a lot more expensive than an equal mass of gold. After the A-10 entered into service with the U.S. Air Force, it was treated as an ugly duckling for a long time. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, confrontation with the Soviet Union didn't seem as inevitable as it was in the 1960s and early 1970s. The Cuban Missile Crisis alone was worth it. And the Warthog was kind of out of business. It was not even exported. At various times, Australia, Britain, Belgium, Germany, South Korea, and Japan were interested in it, but the military budgets of those countries didn't allow to buy a highly specialized heavy attack aircraft that resulted the preference to multi-purpose fighter bombers in all cases. In the late 80s, the military servicemen started realizing the aircraft is useless. An idea emerged to use the F-16 as the attack aircraft, or more precisely, its modification A-16. In 1990, the U.S. Congress adopted a decision to begin transferring the Thunderbolts to the Army. But in November of that year, it was decided to keep 2 A-10 wings in the Air Force. Things changed drastically in 1991 after the Persian Gulf War. In fact, that was the time of the attack aircraft combat debut. In total, 144 aircraft of this type took part in the operation, having performed a total of 8,100 combat sorties. Having lost 7 vehicles on average, one loss of an attack aircraft accounted for 1,350 sorties. To the surprise of many outside observers, the unsightly subsonic aircraft managed to become one of the heroes of this war, along with the stealth aircraft F-117 and the F-15 fighter. As the U.S. military servicemen declared, the Thunderbolts were able to destroy more than 1,000 Iraqi tanks, more than any other U.S. Air Force aircraft, up to 2,000 pieces of other military equipment, and 1,200 artillery units of all types. Having estimated these figures, the military servicemen realized that decommissioning was out of the question. But of course, the combat aircraft, developed in the early 1970s, should be modernized for the realities of the early 21st century. 2007 witnessed the Warthog modification, the A-10C Thunderbolt. This turned the aircraft into a high-tech weapon of the 21st century. It didn't lose its survivability, but was significantly highly improved, particularly the Advanced Sniper Advanced Targeting Pod. The aircraft arsenal included the latest guided bombs and missiles. As of today, the U.S. Air Force has 287 A-10Cs. In 2014, the Warthog decommissioning turned into an issue again. Budget cuts were forcing the Air Force Command to reject the aging attack aircraft to free up money and manpower for the new F-35 fighters. But some things went wrong. Last year, the A-10 Thunderbolt II fleet was upgraded by so-called Suite 9. This significantly increased the survivability of the aircraft on the battlefield. It significantly expanded the armament with new high-precision munitions. The avionics and helmet-mounted equipment of the pilot faced the changes as well. Now the pilot's able to release several munitions at once by pressing the button. In spring 2021, the aircraft obtained the Suite 10. It allows the pilot to hit several targets with 3 different types of weapons in one go. Furthermore, Suite 11 is being developed, which will include new opportunities for the use of small corrective bombs, as well as significantly changing the pilot's instrument panel. Thus, the U.S. Air Force plans to keep the A-10 Thunderbolt II fleet in a high combat readiness for at least a decade. So our old military buddy is not going to retire yet. It's like an axe. Simple, maximally functional, with no frills, unsightly, and when skillfully operated, turns into a formidable weapon. How long do you think the aircraft of the 1970s can withstand the modern aircraft? The real flying computers equipped with stealth technology? Write your comments below this video, and if you liked it, click on the like button and subscribe to our channel. More interesting videos on modern weapons are coming soon.